The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
Right, Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the first 9 Years podcast of 2018 with Nick Draper and Stuart Deacons. We are in a fantastic mood this week after a very, very satisfying performance and result for the side against Southend on New Year's Day, and with 7 points from our last 12 available and 7 goals as well. We are upbeat about our chances of having a fruitful January in all competitions. And with Spurs on the horizon, we're going to revisit the last time we played them in the FA Cup, a fourth-round tie that ended up forming part of 5 games against them in a month at the start of 1999 and featured many, many talking points. We're going to preview the game as best we can alongside all the usual features and, for the new year, a brand new game, which we're very excited about. But first, 2 games to discuss, and we'll start with the 2-0 victory against Southend on Monday. And Stu, you've been dying to talk about it for months on this show, and finally you get the opportunity. Talk to me about Will's tackle.
Do you know what? Will on Monday put in such a good performance, but he's old school, isn't he? He's one of those defenders that loves to get a tackle, and nowadays you can't even leave the floor, can you? You've got a stand up tackle, but he took out McGlashan. It was a well-timed tackle. McGlashan knocked the ball in front of him, give him enough of Will to go and wipe him out. And to be fair to McGlashan, he got up and got on with it. Whereas there's a few Peterborough players that I could probably think about that might have been still rolling around now.
Or some Wycombe players maybe back in the day, but absolutely. Yeah. That was proper old-school football. No nonsense, great tackle, hard challenge, full length, but, as you say, the Southend player just got up again, just said, fair enough, fair play, let's carry on. And yeah, like to see that. But Will was starting on Monday. He was one of 5 changes, which seemed to freshen us up. Every single player put in a shift. But Stu, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking Barry Fuller's now injured. He was spotted on Monday with his foot in a protective boot. We've not heard any more about that at the moment, but that's what was seen. Alongside him, John Meads, Darius Charles, Cody McDonald and Andy Barcham were all rested. They were all in the team for the Gillingham game. They were rested for Southend. Which of those 5 is in most danger of losing their place in the side over the coming weeks and months?
In most danger is probably Jonathan Meads, I would have thought. All the others, I think, go back in, although it's the argument with the Darius Charles, isn't it? You know, Darius has done nothing wrong to lose his place and was rested. Probably because he's the older of Darius. The older of him and Deji at the back. But I would say John Meads has. He just hasn't hit the form that we know he can hit. And we have a natural replacement in Callum Kennedy who did nothing wrong on Monday. And what Callum does, and what Callum offers you a lot more going forward or in terms of attacking emphasis. So I think John is a better defender, isn't he? I don't think there's any doubt about that, if I'm being honest with you. But going forward, Callum can get a better crossing, he's better at set pieces. And possibly a little bit pacey as well. So I think Meaty's got a battle to get back in. But I also think Barry Fuller's got a little bit of battle. Because I thought George Frankham did very well Monday as well.
Do you think there's an possibility that John Meads actually keeps his place ahead of Barry Fuller and Callum Kennedy becomes left back, John Meads right back? And that way you don't lose attacking impetus, but you also have that defensive solidity, because John Meads, he struggled for form. I thought his game against Portsmouth made an error for the goal, but aside from that was actually his best and most encouraging performance I've seen since he's come back in. And he's switched on, positionally wise. He's very, very switched on. And you can, if you're going to go Callum getting up forward, perhaps John can quite happily step in, form a back 3. Do you know what I mean? It's a great player to have in your team.
There's a lot of options. I think the way Will played on Monday, we all felt, didn't we, that, you know, we have 3 excellent centre-halves, and is there any way we can find a way for all of them to be in there. I also like George Frankham at right back. I really do. I think you and I are very much for the opinion that I think this is going to be Barry Fuller's last season with us. I think you and I are with that sort of feeling. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to see out the days of Barry Fuller being our team just because of he's our captain and so forth. But I think, when we got George Frankham, he was rated one of the best right backs. He was at Norwich. We had him on loan. I think he's a very good right back. I really do. I think he's better when he can see everything in front of him. I'm trying to think with Measy. I'm trying to see when I see Measy play right back. I'm trying to think now. Last time he did. One thing I do know about Measy, he's so well respected amongst the team that they wouldn't really want him to see him on the bench. But, there's loads of options. I'd love to go free at back. I really would. And then you can play Callum. You can probably play George. There's no reason why you can't play Jonathan Meads in midfield. But I do wonder with Will Nightingale, the way he plays, how do you drop him?
Well, as you say, three at the back could well be an option going forward. I can't think... I guess we're going back to the days of the 3-4-3, which was ditched very early into the season after whiteboard presentations from Neil Ardley trying to convince us all what a great system 3-4-3 was, and he dropped that very, very quickly. But since then, he's tended to stick with the back four, hasn't he? And it does seem to make sense when you say you've got the fullback options that we've got. Yeah,
the only option you've got, don't forget, Deji can play left back. So, if you wanted to find... But then, are you moving players around just to suit... Is Deji a better left back than a centre half? That's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes you want to sometimes play people in their proper positions. But all of a sudden, how silly is it also that on Monday we made a few changes which we haven't done for ages, and all of a sudden, we're thinking we have a few other options just because we use the squad. So fair play to Nuardi on that. I think he always was intended to do that. But it now sets us up nicely for the month ahead, which is, again, another challenging month.
It's a huge month. You mentioned the squad options there. We've noted in previous games prior to Southend our lack of options, and Edgley Carr seemed to be the biggest option we had to try and change games. Well, he got a start against Southend. Didn't have his best game in terms of creatively or getting forward or things like that. Again, it's one of those games where everyone has put in a real shift. Do you think he needs a run of games, really, so we can see the best of him, so he can get himself into form?
Yeah, Edgley's an interesting one, isn't he? I like him a lot because he's one of the old-fashioned sort of players where he's always going to make sure he's going to test whoever's marking him. So he's always going to have a run at him. He doesn't really like playing the ball back. He'd either try and stand you up and go past you, or he'll try and pass off. I don't know whether he get a run of games. That's the only thing. I don't know whether we've got. It's the old thing with Neil Ardley in a relegation battle, which we are in. Will he trust his kids? I don't think he will. So I think Edgley will get very much a substitute appearance here and there.
Speaking of midfielders, we have to mention him. We have to talk about him. Everybody's favourite AFC Wimbledon player, Liam Trotter. It was a great performance from him on Monday. We can't deny that. Very, very good performance. Easily his best performance for the club since joining. Here's my issue. Neil Ardley said afterward that Liam has been driving the team forward and that Neil has been delighted with the signing. I am calling this out as absolute bollocks, to be honest with you. One performance.
Are we going to beep that out, are we?
No. What, Liam Trotter's name? No. It's not. It's one performance, okay? My argument is, over the past few months, when Trotter's been getting a lot of stick, and yes, I include myself in that, and justifiably as well, I should say, that was the time for Neil Ardley to be coming out, showing us, telling us, explaining what Liam's doing in the team. Possibly, perhaps even getting the club to interview Liam himself to talk about how he feels he's going, or perhaps, what his feelings are about what's happening at the club at the moment. Instead, after one good performance, and it is just one good performance, people can talk to me about improved showings against Bradford and Gillingham all they like. He has had one good 90 minutes for us, and that was against Southend. Is it not a case of, surely now you don't need to say anything, let him have a run of maybe 5 or 6 games like that, and then start to praise him? But after one performance to come out and almost say, haha, told you so, I know better than all of you, it just felt like, it felt misplaced to me. And also, I think it sets up Trotter to fail now. Because instead of everyone sort of going, great performance, Liam, let's hope you do it again against Spurs, or more importantly, against Milton Keynes in a couple of weeks, people might even have that slight of edge of, well, now I'm expecting you to fail now, almost. Because you can't be as good as Neil is saying you are, because the evidence of the first 5 months of the season is you're not.
Yeah, we have a history of this, though, don't we? We have a history of this season, it feels like. Whenever something's gone right, it's a case of going, told you so. And it's not something I really like, and I think it's crept in a little bit, and that maybe might be a bit of pressure, a bit of frustration from him. I don't think anyone can argue he looked absolutely shattered on the iFollow interview. And probably rightly so. 4 games in a real sort of tight space of time. It's difficult. I know people will go, oh, he's a footballer, they don't work full days, but that's a lot. That's a lot. And there's a lot of pressure on him because you and I called it that where you finish out of that sort of Christmas, New Year period can have a big influence on your second half of the season. So he's obviously taking a lot of pressure on that. What frustrates me is that we do an interview with Liam Trotter and we ask him how he's settling in. Now, the frustration is that we should be interviewing these players a lot more. I don't know anything. I don't know about you, but I can't remember how many interviews Liam Trotter's had, how many interviews Tom Saw's had, how many interviews Jimmy Abdou has had. I can't, even Deji, I can't remember how many interviews. I think Trotter could have been done, as you said, I think he could have been given some help early on in the season and could have gone, Joe, we'll get you in front of the camera. We won't give you too many tough questions, but people just try and get to know about you, what you've done in your career. Because at the moment, he has no profile. The profile he has is George Frankham from last year. The happiest player this year who saw Trotter walk through a door was George Frankham, because he's been left alone as a boo boy now, hasn't he? But it was so obvious that he was going to be interviewed yesterday. Why do we interview him after a goal? Why can we not interview him after early on and get him in front of the cameras and stuff? But in terms of his performance, so I'm ranting on a little bit like you are. In terms of, I saw it at Bradford. I called it a Bradford game, didn't I? I said I felt he was getting himself more involved in the game, breaking from midfield. He looked better breaking from midfield than he did chasing shadows around the midfield area. And I'm hoping now that we can continue it, because he did look good, but not on his own. I think he looked good with Jimmy Abdou and Tom Sawers. I thought it was a free. I know we moaned about him, a few people called him the wardrobe, but I think they actually did a very good job on Monday.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit in a moment actually about that midfield and the creativity in it. The thing with, I don't want to badger on and on and on about it. Liam Trotter now, though, however, has no excuses going forward now.
Yes, agreed.
Because that's evidence of what he can do. So, unfortunately for him now, the situation is anything not below. That was a very, very good performance, of course, and players have days where they're at that. But that level of effort and commitment from him, and putting in the yards across the pitch, getting up and down, there's no excuse for him not doing that now going forward. And believe me, it's not enough to do it once against Southend, then against Spurs.
Just very quick, there's one thing that Neil Ardie did in that interview, which I think, I won't say he slipped up, but they always say I don't take any notice of social media, which I always call rubbish, because if it was me, I would be interested. I'd be having a bit of nose, because I'm nosy. And players are nosy. Players have an ego. They like their ego to be massaged. That's no different to anyone else. But when he said at the end of when he said about Trotter, he said he's been one of my best signings. That's a real big comment, and it's a
lie though.
Hey, you would think so, but Neil Ardie, maybe he's seen. But what I mean by it is you sometimes think, we've had such a difficult season, and that siege mentality is just created. I really don't like the siege mentality. I don't like when it's a case of when it goes right. Well, he's one of my best signings. He's been doing a great job for me all season, and when it goes wrong, they hide. Because we can argue this. Neil Ardie has been in front of the camera very little over December, but now all of a sudden when we're doing it right, wants to be in front of me. I want to see when it's not going well. I want him to face up, and that sort of side of it. I don't want a siege mentality going, told you so. He's been great. That's rubbish for me.
Do you think there is a growing siege mentality? There should be.
Feels that way
on occasions. There is a good reason to have a siege mentality. I think it works for clubs, but that's against the wider footballing world, and not against your own fans. That's still a worry. But let's be fair. More performances like we had on Monday then we're not going to have any issues, are we? Because that's all you ever asked for. And that sort of comes back to my point about creativity, because I thought there was very little on the show on Monday, actually. I thought quality-wise and ability-wise, we didn't really show much, to be honest. It was all about effort, determination, discipline. And the three midfielders did a great job for us in that regard. But against other teams, that creative spark again. Harry Forrester, big fan because he's really putting a shift in for us. He did score against Gillingham, to be fair, but generally he's not really offering us a great deal at the moment. And I thought, if he is your creative link, as he should have been, perhaps, on Monday, not his best game at all, really.
Yeah, and if you think about when we've done a podcast on our Facebook Live, you and I spoke about the defensive element and how much the percentage-wise, I think we were 60%. Our defensive play and our setup was very good. We very rarely got slaughtered, so 3-0 was our biggest defeat at Oxford, and we got done by 4 against Wigan, but I don't think that was a fair reflection on the game. But we had a more emphasis on defending and being solid as a unit. So, again, on Monday, we probably were at that again, because Lyle was, for a long time, left alone up front. Lyle worked so hard on Monday. It was untrue. So you're right. I think the problem we had is that we got our midfield three to join in where we could, which is why Trotter got on the end of something in the end. But Soares was running through the midfield. Jimmy Abdul was getting in the box. But if we're relying on really what our class as defensive midfielders to get our goals, then we're struggling. I like the fact, that we were solid. I like the fact we worked really hard. But it relies on the fact sometimes when you get a goal. So I think we got an earliest goal. But if we hadn't got the earliest goal, would we have continued and still been positive? I think when you play that way, if you get a goal early on, you can stay solid, you can stay compact. But if he goes against you, you've only got to look at the stats. We're one of the teams that have come back from losing positions. We hardly ever do. That's probably a reflection on how defensive we are.
That second goal did seem key on Monday, because I think had we not got that goal, and slightly fortuitously in the end, I don't think it's ever going to be picked up, but it more than likely was an own goal, in fact. But I don't think anyone's going to complain or try and change it officially, so I think the goal will be credited to Tom Soares. But defensively, yes, and that was what's so disappointing when I talk about set pieces in the Gillingham game. So twice we came back, as you say, to get a point, but twice we've conceded really poor goals. Really, really poor goals to Gillingham set pieces. Major issue.
Yeah, they were disappointing. They're not what we normally think we're going to see goals against. I think I was always worried when I saw Tom Eaves on the bench, because I was like, he's going to come on at some point. And they didn't really have any area. They had Wilkinson up front, who's a bit of a lump as well. But we dealt with both of them in the home game reasonably well. But when he's come on, all of a sudden we just seemed to, whether we didn't really get clear who was going to pick him up, because he calls the first goal. The first goal is really, really, it's unfortunate, if we're being honest, because if you look at George Frankham, he's in a pack of players, and then all of a sudden he gets drawn towards the flight of the ball, and I don't know why he's there, because there's no one there to mark, which is really weird. But he comes out of the pack, goes in, and then just flicks the header into the only place that George Ron can't get it. But I don't know for the life of me where George is going, because there's nothing to mark. It's just space. But in the second goal, we get done on a flick from Tom Eaves. So we get done with a standing jump on Darius. And I think George is the runner on it. And we get beat by Tom, and then the ball goes across the box. The thing is, a target man, a big lump, causes problems all the time. But I just wonder, did we know who picks him up? Because we didn't really get a grip of him when he come on.
Interesting you should mention there's that word again. But you should mention target man, because I'm going to ask you about that shortly. But first, let's just wrap up the week. So we had 3-word reports on Twitter for the Southend game. At 9YRS Podcast, if you don't already follow us on Twitter, hashtag Don's 3-word report. And the favourite 3 this week we have from Liam Trotter, at Mr. Liam Trotter, who went with I did what?
It's brilliant.
We are all still in a bit of state of shock, I feel. Phil Day, at Happy Plums, he went for well done, Rodders. It's Only Fools and Horses reference, I think. I think that's what he's going for there.
Yep.
And finally, Chris Draper, at Total Bellend. At C Drape 01, bloody defensive midfielders.
Can I just say though, with Liam Trotter, I can't help. I know it's not about liking people, but I generally can't help but like the person because I think he's had a lot of stick, and he's got very broad shoulders, so maybe he's had that throughout his career. But he's responding, and I like a person who's responding. He's not hiding. Yes, he's got faults, but I do think sometimes we are a little bit harsh on him, which is why we've got to increase his profile. Get him out amongst the fans. Do you know what I mean? He's a nice guy from all accounts.
When you see those,
I'm not saying that should mean that we're not horrible to him. I'm not, that sort of wide of it. But I genuinely feel now he needs to have a chance now. And you are right. The club has set him up in a way now that he can fail because we basically said he's one of our best signings, and he's been holding the team together. So, but I just hope in a way that we give him a fair crack because when he performs at more than 70%, I think he's a decent player. Yeah,
and those interviews show he comes across as a very nice guy, very intelligent guy. I thought that from his first interview when he signed in the summer. Just a shame we haven't heard more of him since then. Anyway, there have been two sets of fixtures in League One since we last spoke on the podcast. Saturday and then Monday. Stu, for you, who had the best week in the division?
I'm surprised about this. Because I think, they obviously were top of the table, and Wigan have overtaken them, and all the teams now we expect to really probably be too strong. But they've bounced back. So they won 2-1 at home to Southend. Away to Southend, They won 2-1 away to Southend. And then a home win against Oldham. So they've responded well to a bit of a setback, and that's a sign of a good team. So, yeah, that's my one.
Shrewsbury have some good news because they've done well in the loan market, haven't they?
Yes.
And they have extended a couple of loans for the rest of the season now, which is going to be vital to them, really, for staying in there. I know they've got the striker up front, Morris, who's been very good for them. Carlton Morris, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yes, and they have also got, I can't believe I haven't got his name, Godfrey, who scored a fantastic goal the other day, actually. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Away at Southend, funnily.
It just shows a low market, doesn't it? We've chosen not to go into it too heavily. But it does show you that it can work to a certain extent.
Who was your villain? Not villain, sorry. Who had your worst week?
That's quite big. Well, for me, it's Southend. Shocking week. And I wasn't angry because we beat them, but I was just like, sometimes we said some people have cheated, they've earned money when they haven't deserved it and that sort of thing, robbed people. But I just think Southend, losing at home quite easily, then turning up at our place, they're 13th in the table. They look a team. If it wasn't the fact you looked at their team and gone, yeah, he's quality, you'd be thinking the form they're on, they should be sliding down the table. They may still get caught in that. But, yeah, Southend, shocking week.
Hero of the week. Is it anyone other than Liam Trotter?
Got to be Trots. It's got to be Trot, isn't it? Because there's no one else I can think of.
I think we're safe to say it's Liam Trotter. Well done, Liam. He also won our Man of the Match poll on Twitter for the Southend game. So, Liam Trotter, yes, your ears are not deceiving you. Liam Trotter is our hero of the week. Villain of the week. This could be interesting.
Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Laurie Sanchez.
Okay.
Not really because he's a villain, just because this was super awkward. The club broadcast an interview with Laurie from the hospitality suite. Suite. Oh dear. You know what I mean. The pre-match hospitality where he was speaking. Yeah, the UK Agora Lounge, as it's now known. And he was talking about, obviously Ivor was asking him about scoring the winning goal at Wembley and things like that. And he started to discuss how he also had the Huddersfield goal, which earned us promotion to Division 1 back in 1986. And he said, I think the real fans were the ones that were at Huddersfield that day. Who here was at Huddersfield that day? And no one replied. It was dead silent.
Oops.
And Laurie Sanchez was left to reflect on the fact that he's just called a room full of people not true fans because they weren't at Huddersfield away in 1986. Very awkward. Very difficult viewing.
I must admit, I haven't watched that yet. I probably will have a little. I do find it, and you know what? It's good that we're doing it. We're bringing in guests. A lot of other clubs do it, and I think it does add a little bit of value to it. I don't know why we didn't have to put it on Facebook, because if I want to pay for hospitality, I expect that to be a privilege. I'm being honest with you, but I do find it awkward that they still have the football on in the background.
Yeah, they need to switch off that
turn
big
it off.
screen during those interviews.
I've heard before people say to me, yeah, but we've got some Chelsea fans in. Well, they're at Wimbledon. Turn the thing off.
They should go and watch Chelsea.
Turn the thing off. Be respectful. But I do find it very off-putting where you've got either being overshadowed by a footballer or some green grass behind him. And it just looks a bit... It looks amateurish and it doesn't have to be, because I think it's a really good idea by the club. But turn the TV off. You know, if they want to go watch Chelsea, stay home. Mine was the whole Peterborough team.
Okay. I don't know. I've never heard of a team called Hull Peterborough.
How the hell did they not... Not that I want other teams to, do our work for us, but how the hell did they, on the form they were on, not score a single goal up in Buckinghamshire against 9 men? Just, villains, all of them, how they've done that.
It's very rare, though, must be said. And I think there's been a couple of exceptions this year, but they are the exceptions that prove the rule. When you have these Christmas festive periods or a lot of games in a short space of time, it's very rare that teams will have 100% records or 0% records. I think Cardiff perhaps have lost all 4 games over this period. I think Bury probably have without scoring a goal, because Bury are just horrendous. I think Peterborough probably, it's just law of averages that one of their 4 they weren't going to win, and that was the one, sadly. But yes, anyway, transfers.
January transfer gossip. Yeah, I've had a quick look. Of course, we know that we're not the only ones that are probably desperate to do some business during the January transfer window. So what I found, the most interesting thing is we saw Keeper Moore playing against us, didn't we, for Rotherham, when we beat them at home. Big lump, not needed by Ipswich. Apparently Ipswich were going to get rid of him at some point. It looks likely that Ipswich are going to receive a bid from Rotherham for Keeper Moore. And reportedly, I don't know how true this is, in the region of 550,000. That's Bury. Bury apparently on Wednesday. It's Wednesday? Tuesday. Put all their squad up, barring 3 players for transfer. What a sorry state of affairs that is.
Did that actually happen, or was this one of those rumours?
No, well, it's a Twitter rumour, so you never know. If it is, then of course we failed on Michael Smith, didn't we? So is he going to be a bit cheaper now that he's failed at Bury? But apparently Bury are going to go in and try and sign Paddy Madden from Scunthorpe. Could be a good signing.
Why would you go to... I just don't get that.
Well, what are Bury good at doing? They offer stupid money. So I suppose if you're that inclined to pick up cheap, easy money, you do that. But Bury are adrift at the bottom of League One at the moment, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? So I don't want 2 new players. I don't want 2 players going there. But equally, if you are going to get rid of, if you get rid of 5 or 6 and bring in 2 many new players, then that doesn't always work either. So Bury got a lot of work to do, but it looks like they're going to be chucking some money out here. But rumour-wise for us, really quiet. There's a few. Is it Danny Wheeler at QPR? Apparently, rumour that we may be looking at him. That we got beat by QPR in the window when he left Exeter, but he's not a target man. He's a winger. And Carlton Cole, it's all gone quiet with Carlton Cole, so we actually don't know if he's actually training at the club anymore. But yeah, that's the early news for the January transfer window. It's getting ready to kick off.
I have to say, David Wheeler. Because when you said Danny Wheeler just then...
Oh, he's the old goalkeeper, really?
I was going to say, my head exploded. I was just like, I swear if it was Danny Wheeler...
Was it Squeeze, was it?
He did, yeah. When you said that, I was thinking, last week you mentioned the possibility of signing this player. I thought I'd have picked up on it then, surely, if it was Danny Wheeler, surely. Of course, Danny Wheeler he played for us, didn't he? He came and signed for us, didn't he?
Yeah. Sorry, David Wheeler, but apart from that, my gut feeling is we're going to the loan market easily. We'll probably look at the under 21s or under 23s, which I know Simon Bassey is always looking. He goes to so many games at that level, so I wouldn't be surprised to see one come from that. But we just really need to make sure now, don't we, that any transfers come in are ready for the Milton Keynes game, because they could be cup tied. Couldn't they, really, for the Tottenham game, or would you even chuck them in if they weren't? But we just need to make sure now that they get in early and ready for that game up in Buckinghamshire.
Boobs is what they want.
So we have Tottenham on Sunday. First time we have played them since the year 2000, but the first time we have played, I'm not counting their under-23s and whatever that stupid competition is, the first time we played them in the FA Cup since 1999. Now, this was in January. and February, actually. The replay was in February of 1999, the 98-99 season. We ended up playing them 5 times in the space of a month. We played them in the Premier League, we played them in a 2-legged League Cup semi-final, and then we got drawn against them in the 4th round of the FA Cup, and typically that went to a replay. The first game of which, well, not the first game of the FA Cup, sorry, the first of these 5 games was on the 16th of January, and the final game was on the 16th of February, so it was 5 games in a month. It was big, big news at the time. We went into that first game, the league game, 6th in the Premier League. That gives you an indication of how much importance was placed on this mini run of games, mini league against Spurs, really. For a club like us to be 6th in the table against Spurs, so it became the story of the time. What's your overriding memory of that period?
Well, we have to remember it was a time when we signed John Hartson, so we have to remember. I still remember the day we signed John Hartson. So we laugh now, but it was really the day before social media. So you weren't getting any rumours.
The day before?
Well,
the
days before social media.
Right.
So you weren't, there wasn't rumours or anything like that. And I still remember my dad, bless him, running upstairs. You used to always get the paper in the morning from the local newsagent, and literally running upstairs to give me the paper to say that we'd signed John Hartson for £7.5 million, if I remember properly.
Yep.
And I was going for a job interview that day up in town. I remember it very well.
Was it as West Ham's PR executive?
No, but let's be straight. I didn't even bother for the job interview because I was so mesmerised that we had smashed our transfer record. I can't remember what it was before then, but smashed it. So the job interview, I remember I didn't even bother. I didn't get it. I didn't really care about it, if I'm being truthful. I was just so amazed that we signed John Hartson. So that was what I remember from the start of it, and thinking, actually, what a great signing. And then we have that, mini league with Tottenham, and it was just, if you remember that time, the Tottenham team was sort of held together by a younger David Ginola. They had Armstrong and Everson up front. They had that horrible German, Stefan Freund. And don't forget, that team also had one of the managers that was, managed against us in Justin Ebra. He was a fullback at the time. So it's when you look back and you think, crikey, the teams. But yeah, Ginola was really the bright spark at that time, and he was a Spurs, and he was very, let's say, involved in all of the games.
Yes, very much so. That first 0-0 was, my memory of that was John Hartson got booked, I believe, and there was discussions about his physicality, shall we say. But David Ginola had a bit of a lack of physicality because he didn't appear to be able to stand on his feet for very, very long. And he made four claims for penalties against us. We've actually had a quick look at them back, haven't we? And were any of them penalties? I think there was one that was perhaps a foul, and that was one that perhaps was more likely outside the box anyway. Yeah,
because the last one of the 4 was where he literally run straight at the heart of the defence. And it was one of those ones where you can't get out of the way. And it was like he was trying to jump into the area. So he was obviously, I think he was body checked or obstruction at best. It was probably an indirect free kick. But it was like we have to remember back then we had defensive qualities of, our back line was, and you look at it now and you think, wow, how good was it? So we had Neil Sullivan in goal, Kenny Cunningham, Dean Blackwell, Chris Perry, and the nutter Ben Thatcher. That was a formidable defence at that time. So, Blackwell and Chris Perry were very, very good, and they let him get to the edge of the area. He sort of tried to jump over their legs into the area for the penalty. No, I don't think so. The one before that was Kenny Cunningham. Now, Kenny Cunningham, one of the best defenders we had, arguably a right back. So, it was a good battle the whole way through, but you also felt that as it went on, because, of course, we were playing each other so many times, that eventually you may get a referee who thought different to the first one.
I just remember that with Ginola, aside from that, the final game was the second leg of the League Cup semi-final, which we lost 1-0 on the night and 1-0 on aggregate. And I think we got into injury time in that game, and Kenny Cunningham just took the opportunity. The ball came down the touchline. Ginola was going for it. Cunningham thought, you know what, I've had enough of you. And he just jumped on top of him and basically slammed him into the ground. And I think that was just his way of saying, look, all right, fair play. You've come out on top of this little mini-league, but I'm going to make sure you don't forget who I am, because Ginola, as good as he was, and he scored a great goal in the 1-1 draw in the first FA Cup tie at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, we have to remember also that at that time, Spurs were managed by George Graham.
They were, yeah.
So that was when he obviously went from the Arsenal to the Spurs, which was never well received, was it, at the best of times? But they weren't. We think about Spurs now. This is, for the younger generation. Forgive us for talking as if you're still spring chickens, but you have to remember Spurs were.
What did you just say?
Well, the older fans here will be remembering very much the names of Justin Edinburgh and Stephen Freud and stuff like that. But for our younger fans, they're going to think, Spurs, were they ever boring? Because Spurs are traditionally a exciting team. George Graham would bore the pants off anybody, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean? But they were very tight games because that's how he set up. So for the irony was to have a player like David Ginola in a George Graham team, because they never really played with much flair, did they? But yeah, that Spurs team that year, you have to look at where they finished in the league. They weren't that great. They finished 11th in the league in the end. And still managed to qualify for the UEFA Cup first round.
That's purely because they won the League Cup in the end, didn't they? So I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won at Wembley. They beat Leicester in the final, having beaten us with an offside goal. Stefan Everson scored the only goal in the League Cup semi-final. It is kind of poor, and perhaps, as you say to our younger fans, or spring chickens as you like to call them, they are probably used to us not scoring, as we've discussed many times over the past year. However, in those 5 games against Spurs, we didn't score in 4 of them. We only scored 1 goal, which is painful. But the winning goal across the League Cup semi-final, great finish, offside. How did he not spot it was offside?
Yeah, it was. And I remember at the time, it wasn't live. Was it? No, it wasn't live, was it? It was highlights, if I remember properly.
Well, I watched it back on the highlights. It would have been live on Sky at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I was okay, yeah. But yeah, Joe, it's so interesting what you're saying about goals and so we didn't score. We actually did score quite a lot of goals that season before we went into the Spurs game, which shows you again how good George Graham was at setting up a defensive team. He
did, but we also have to say that he also got slightly fortuitous, I think, because we came close to equalising in that League Cup game, and at the very last kick, Robbie Earle hits the bar with a shot, which was... I have the most vivid memory of that. Right, we were at the other end at the time in the Holmesdale Road end of Selhurst Park, but I can remember, I can see it from my viewpoint in the Holmesdale Road going back, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. It was what a gut-wrenching moment that was. But Robbie Earle did, of course, score in the FA Cup, and one of the best goals I've ever seen from a Wimbledon player.
Yeah, overhead kick, wasn't it?
Overhead kick.
Yeah, but. Well, the good thing about actually us doing this in a way playing Spurs is you get a chance to look back at the olden days, the good old days, as they say. But you just get to remember how good a player Robbie Earle was and the goals that he chipped in. The flip side to that is, of course, it's always interesting how you look back at things. And looking back now, Robbie Earle probably was at fault for the David Ginola equaliser, because he was the one that Ginola done his little step over to and then knocked it into the bottom corner, wasn't it? But yeah, Robbie Earle, what a player. It's still a shame. It's a shame now that we still don't have any connections with him at all. And we don't. I know he works in the States now, doesn't he? But it's one of the players we never really have had much of a connection since we were as AFC Wimbledon.
No, not really. But I'm sure that he's a top guy, Robbie Earle. I'm sure we should arrange something. I don't think there's a burnt bridge or anything there. I think it's just one of those things that hasn't happened for various reasons. Yeah. But it would be great to have him back in the fold. You just got me thinking there about that team, actually, because you're right. Ginola just sort of sidestepped Robbie Earle as if he wasn't there. It was kind of like Nick Powell against Anthony Hartigan the other day for Wigan. It was great that finish, sort of thing.
Great finish.
And it was a great finish. Robbie Earle, I'm looking at the team now. So would it have been Andy? It was Andy Roberts those days. So you see, that would have been Andy Roberts' job. Where was Andy Roberts?
So let's blame Andy Roberts.
Yeah, let's blame Andy Roberts. That's definitely what I would do. You do look at the names in that team. Carl Lieber there as well.
I know. I'm just looking at the run-in. So if you look into the run into the Cup that year, we beat Man City 1-0 at home. Carl Court scored. And that wouldn't be the Man City of now, the all-conquering Man City. That would have been your Man City with probably like Uwe Rosler in. And
no, that wasn't even that. Do you know what?
Wasn't it not even that?
That was the old Division 2, so they were in what is now League 1 at the time. I think they had, was it Morrison, the centre-half, who was captain? Big, ugly, big, and I think Dickoff obviously up front because they got promoted that year. And I do remember singing to the Manchester City fans at the time, "You're in the right division."
Yeah, it's mad because Man City. I remember going to Main Road and that was. If ever you go to a place now and you think, "Wow, this is some sort of northern slum," trust me, nothing prepares you for going from Main Road.
Oh, Main Road was something else. Wasn't it?
Oh dear, it made me so grateful to come back home to London. Whenever into Man City, but we're digressing. But you're right, the names in there. Even the run into the League Cup when we got them in the League Cup, we beat Pompey two-legged, and we had Lieberman scoring the last goal of a 4-1 home win, and then away to Birmingham City with Neil Ardley, and then away to Bolton Wanderers, where Gale and Kennedy. Crikey, his name for the past there.
Did we have? Bolton and us just seemed to be, it was like a League Cup draw, and they were like, Bolton are in it, Wimbledon are in it, well, just pair them off straight away. Played them pretty much every season in the League Cup. I remember
we did.
It was the 2-0 the season we got to the semi-final with Leicester. It was a 2-1, they say Mark Kennedy, I think it was his only goal for us with that free kick. We're well off the point now, but who cares? It's a great goal from Mark Kennedy, actually, fantastic strike. And then the famous year when we lost in extra time thanks to a goal in the first minute of extra time, when friend of the show, Nick Palmer, decided he didn't need a jacket. He did not need a jacket in Bolton in December.
That was the best night ever.
Well, in perspective.
Well, no, it was like he left his coat on the coach, and the coach driver would not let him go back on. So Nick decided to just keep buying hot drinks to keep warm. It was brilliant, and the game was an absolute nightmare of a game. And then we went into extra time, and if I remember correctly, Peter Beardsley scored.
He scored in the first minute of extra time.
He could
have just done that like 2 minutes ago and saved us all the trouble.
You've added on about 40 minutes to our journey, which is far enough anyway midweek. But that was at the Reebok, wasn't it? That wasn't at the old...
No, I think there was only one at Burnden Park, which was the 2-0.
Yeah, that was when
one, yeah.
They gave us the whole terrace, and there must have been 100 of us up there, and we scored. We all run. I think we scored, and they say the old days of terracing where they do surges. We did our own little surge, but we went down and grabbed 20 rows. When I'm trying to think now, who would have scored down. Was it Robbie Earl down there or a Cuckoo?
I think a Coco and Leon Hardson are the names that come to mind. I think so.
But yeah, Bolton. That's a great ground. That was a great ground.
And from Burnden Park, which has often been referred to as the Wembley of the Northwest, I think. Possibly never. Yeah, we are going up to Wembley on Sunday. Now,
I'll tell you a very funny story very quickly. Stanley Reid, God bless his soul.
Yes.
Used to always walk over to the away fans.
Oh, sorry. This is probably one of those things where for the spring chickens amongst our listeners, you might have to explain who Stanley Reid is.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think what role he had now. Chairman. He was great. So any away game, he would always come over, and Stanley Reid was a very well-spoken man, do you know what I mean? Lovely guy. He must have been in his... Crikey, when I first got to Wimbledon, he must have been in his 60s, 70s, easy. He'd come to the away fans, always say hello, but he'd always get guided over by a steward. And I remember he walked across the pitch at Bolton now. The old pitch at Bolton had a hill, basically. It was on raised ground. It must have been a good 3-4 foot drop. And he walked over and he kept walking, and I remember all of us going, "Stop!" And the steward was trying to get hold of him. And Stanley Reid was a stubborn person and kept walking. And in the end, I think finally realised that he would have rolled down the verge, which, of course, your brother done at the new ground.
I was going to say, Did you just say the words rolling down the grass verge at Bolton?
Yeah. But yeah, Stanley Reid was, Chris did that, didn't he? But yeah, Stanley Reid, do you know what? I do miss those days. He was just such a great character. And sadly missed.
Do you know what I love about those days, though, when I look back at it now, and do you know what, when I was watching some of these games back against Spurs, and I was looking at the team, like you've already referenced there, and Kenny Cunningham was one of the best defenders we ever had. Chris Perry, the same. Neil Sullivan was just an outstanding goalkeeper. And we all knew that, we are competing and punching well above our weight at the time. We didn't even have our own stadium. We were playing in a stadium that was largely a quarter full every single week. There was never any talk about budget. Never. Not from inside the club. Never. It was just a case of, this is pretty much us against the world. We're content with that. We don't need to say anything. But then I guess also, perhaps that is coming slightly, as you say, in an age and an era where it wasn't being talked about 24/7 like it is now.
No, there wasn't. We accepted every season that we probably would have to sell one or two of our better players. We accept it every year. But let's remember that was a year of a famous program where we had 7 youth products who were playing. Because you think about it, it would have been Neil Sullivan, Dean Blackwell, Chris Perry, Neil Ardley, Carl Court,
Peter
Jason
Frears,
Newell,
Stuart Castledine.
yeah.
All those,
so that was a year. I remember that program that just said, the academy, seven academy players were in the squad, and we had a great academy back then. When Neil Ardley was fortunate to benefit from that. But yeah, we had some. But social media. I wonder sometimes now how social media would have affected Wimbledon back in that day and age, because we just accepted the fact that we had a certain amount of money, we would have to sell our better players, but not all of them, just enough. Which is why when we signed John Artson for £7.5 million, we thought, where's the April Fools?
I want to finish off on one last question through this rather random trip down memory lane which died with Spurs. Robbie Earle, in a word, was he the best or most talented player to ever play for Wimbledon?
Yeah. Easily. There was some players that were running very close in that days. Michael Hughes was a genius. I say genius, that's a very big comment, but he was just an absolute brilliant on the ball. But Robbie Earle, the amount of goals consistently, the amount of seasons consistently he got into double figures from midfield, and consistently got ignored by the England manager was just criminal. Do you know what I mean? Probably one of the best midfielders not to get an England cap. And then obviously went to Jamaica and scored in the France World Cup, didn't he, for Jamaica?
The only final thing I'd like to point out about this Tottenham run of games then is we had the FA Cup fourth round replay in which Joe Kinnear, manager at the time, made a number of changes to the team. The phrase, putting all your eggs in one basket, I think was repeated very often around that time because it was saving it for the League Cup instead. And on reflection, we lost the FA Cup fourth round replay 3-0, turned over quite straightforward, and then it didn't happen for us in the semi-final. Was that period of games, was that failure to reach the cup final that season, was that the beginning of the end for the old Wimbledon?
Probably, and let's not forget that, Joe Kinnear had been manager since 1991, I believe. No,
yeah,
92,
91.
I think.
91, I think.
91, and let's not forget, he had that heart attack, didn't he, before the Sheffield Wednesday game, which we won 2-1, but from then, we lost, I think, the last 12 games, I think we lost 10 of them. And went from, we say we were 6th going into that Spurs game. We actually finished the season 16th, which is an almighty fall. So, sometimes you do get, your season does, the way you finish the season goes into your next one. And then, of course, let's not forget we had the great recruitment that Sam Mann did of that famous Norwegian manager.
And yes, you can listen to our thoughts about that particular manager on a previous podcast. The episode number escapes me. However, it is entitled 99-2000. You will be able to find it on YouTube or on our YouTube channel. With all that said, time to move on. We have a new year, Stu, so we do have a new game. Abdu Are You has been retired for the time being. We asked on Twitter earlier the other day if people would like a new game or if they're happy with Abdu Are You. Overwhelmingly, with over 65% of the vote, people said, new broom, let's have a new game. So, with it being our 30th anniversary of the FA Cup win at Wembley in 1988 against Liverpool, I have created, Stu, the George Long Road to Wembley.
Hey!
This is very simple. As I've said, because it is the anniversary of the FA Cup win, I have got a question for you. This is basically a general knowledge quiz about Wimbledon, so it's not general knowledge at all. It's specifically about Wimbledon, really. But questions, of which I have 6. A question for each round of the FA Cup we would have competed in and won that season. starting with West Brom in the third round all the way to Liverpool in the final. Your task, Stu, is simply to get the questions I ask correct to proceed to the next round, and we'll see how far you get in the FA Cup.
Okay. This will be fun.
Each question has a link to the opposition we had in that round back in 1988. Okay? Now...
Crikey, I'm trying to think now the journey. Yeah.
Yes, I've got it all here. So I think the first question is the trickiest. It's a great question, though, and that's why I wanted to include it.
So basically, you give me a banana skin of a draw in the first round.
Well, that's what happens sometimes in the third round. You get a banana skin. It does happen. So,
yeah.
We, in real life, in 1988, we played West Brom. My question to you is this, therefore, Stu. The last time Wimbledon played West Brom was in March of 2002 when West Brom won 1-0 at Selhurst Park in the old Division 1.
Okay.
Which former AFC Wimbledon defender was in the West Brom squad that day?
Wow, so the way you're saying AFC Wimbledon obviously suggests that it's one of our newer... crikey. Was in that West Brom squad that day? Whoever... I know, I've got to know. It's that old Bournemouth player who plays so many games and then comes to us. It's Warren Cummings.
That's good knowledge. It's great knowledge.
It's amazing.
Because
how'd that come
I've
to
got
me?
to be honest with you, that's the most difficult question of this lot, I think, personally.
Thank goodness
That is
for
a great shit. Yes, Warren Cummings was on the bench for West Brom that day. Can you believe? And that 1-0 defeat.
No, I can't believe.
No, I can't believe he ever played that high level, but he won caps for Scotland apparently. So, oh well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. You got to the fourth round. I wasn't expecting you to get to the fourth round, which is why the fourth round question is a bit rubbish. But we'll see how you get on with it anyway. Okay, I was struggling for this one. This was Mansfield Town in round 4.
Oh, no. My general knowledge of Mansfield Town. Okay.
Yeah, as opposed to anyone else's general knowledge about Mansfield. Okay, Mansfield Town. Very simple. This is a 2-part question, okay? You have to get both parts correct.
Yeah.
The first part is, what is the name of Mansfield's ground? And to the nearest 500, what is the capacity of that said stadium?
What's Mansfield? They're known as the Stags, aren't they? What's it called? Oh, my days. What do they call it? I don't know what I've called it.
Well, yes, we have many names for it. None complimentary.
I can't think what it's called. No.
I think you'd kick yourself if I was to tell you, but I'll push you for an answer for both these parts, so you can at least venture a guess.
I've done the first one. What's the second one? What's the second part?
The capacity of that ground.
Oh.
So the nearest 500.
I would say it holds 4,000.
What's it called?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think what it's called now. Stag, Mansfield... Field Mill? No, not Field Mill. Where'd I go that from?
Just give me any name for any ground that you think it might be, and then the capacity, so I can give you the answer.
I think Field's in there. I swear Field's in there. Can't be confident it's in there.
At this point, just say anything.
Stags. 1 second.
You can't be Googling it, saying, one second, let me just type this into Google.
Well, I can't go out of the first round.
You're not. You're in the second. You're in the fourth round, technically.
I was right. Field
How do
Mill.
you know you're right? How? How is it possible you know you're right at this juncture?
Because I've just made sure of it.
You're not cheat like that. That's just shocking. Yeah, I'm going to disqualify you for cheating. Considering you did actually say Field Mill about half an hour ago, it seems. I was just like, just go with Field Mill. Okay, capacity to the nearest 500.
I don't think I was much more than 4,000.
So you're going for 4,000?
4,000 I go for.
Well, I'm quite glad to say you've been knocked out at this stage, Stu, after that shocking level of cheating. What is it? 1 second. Let me just go. Oh, I was right. Anyway, you've...
I never cheat, but I was just thinking I have not an idea.
You have underestimated their attendance considerably. Their capacity, sorry, not their attendance.
They've got a big stand, but I'm not too sure. Actually, no, it's quite a big stand.
It is a big stand. The actual full capacity is 9,186.
They never get that.
They never get that, no. They never get anywhere near that, but 9,000 would have been the correct answer.
Crikey.
So there you go.
It's not a nice ground, though.
It's a horrible ground.
Yeah, it's not nice people either.
Well,
no disrespect to anyone who lives up in that area, but yeah, I'm so pleased we don't play there very often.
Dear me, well, that's our hopes of branching out into the Mansfield area.
That's why when Steve Evans went there, he just thought, well, they go together very well.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Well, anyway, that was the George Long Road to Wembley. And, we shall do that again next week. I'll have to find some new West Brom and Mansfield questions. Competitions. Aside from that, then, Kevin Boris on Facebook Live conducted a competition for us for the Gillingham game, in which he was offering one person a signed copy of Wimbledon fan John Brazier's new novel called ID, which is a satire on post-Brexit Britain. Kevin said, or challenged you to come up with the answer to his question, which was, if you were to take the five ex-Gillingham players in the Wimbledon squad minus Callum Kennedy and add their squad numbers together, it would give you the squad number of another Wimbledon player. And which Wimbledon player would that be? Well, the answer was Lyle Taylor, because he is shirt number 33. And the combination of the former Gillingham players, which are, I was going to say were, but they still are, I suppose, Barry Fuller, Cody McDonald, Andy Barcham, and Deji Oshalaja. Their numbers 2, 4, 10 and 17, all added up to 33. So we had a number of entries. We have put the names into the hat, and now we are going to draw out. Stu, you're going to do this, aren't you? You're going to draw out the winner, the winning name from the hat. What name have you got there, Stu?
David Berzan.
David Berzan.
Well done.
Congratulations, David. A regular contributor on our Facebook Live videos. That signed copy of the book shall be we'll get that to you somehow. I believe you live abroad, so we're going to put that in the post to you, David. So congratulations, very, very well done. Thank you, Kevin, for organising all that. Brilliant competition. Thank you very much. All good. Speaking of Facebook Live, though, Stu, one Mr. Brett Nell has accused you of not smiling enough, which ironically is a criticism that's usually fired at me in life in general. But I do think Brett is actually right on this one. So I'm going to ask the listeners for a bit of help. The challenge for our listeners is to make Stu smile and make him laugh at a short joke. This does not mean jokes about people who are, shall we say, vertically challenged, but jokes that are very simple setup and punchline. Knock jokes are fine if you want to go down that route, but none of these long, complicated ones. Very short, simple, to the point jokes. I shall read them to Stu on next week's show, and then between us we will judge which joke is the best, and that person that we judge to be the winner will win £5, £5 from my own pocket, which is enough for you to purchase an iFollow subscription for a whole month. So to win, all you need to do is find the Make Stu Smile thread on our Facebook page, facebook.com/9YRSpodcast, and comment on that thread with your joke. However, you must have liked our page to qualify. Following us is not enough. You have to have liked the page. So check us out, facebook.com/9YRSpodcast with your short joke. Stu, would you like my short joke to begin with, to kick us off the sort of perhaps level we're after?
Yeah, cool.
What do you do if you see a spaceman?
I don't know. What would you do if you see a spaceman?
Parking it, man. Let's talk about Tottenham instead, very quickly. We are anticipating many, many changes from the Spurs team. Does it not become a very, very difficult job for Neil Lardy to prepare when the opposition is a bit of a mystery and we have no idea which opposition we'll be coming up against?
Yeah, I think it does. So I think he knows whatever he plays against. I think what Neil Lardy will probably do is probably prepare them for the occasion rather than the team they play. So I know it sounds a bit strange, but going to Wembley is going to be a lot different to when we went there before, because it's not going to be the capacity. Well, that's very, very annoying, actually, because what do we have for the playoff was what, 60,000, was it?
It touched 60,000, so it's going to be about half that, I think.
It's going to be about half that, apparently. So Wembley empty is probably not the best place to play football in. So it might be a case of just trying to get their mindset right. He'll have a rough idea. He'll probably know the goalkeeper they're going to play. The more I think about the game, I try not to think about it too much beforehand, because we had a pretty busy Christmas and New Year. But the more I think about it, you've got, this team is going to be very much changed, because Spurs play Swansea. They play Swansea on Tuesday night. Tonight they play home to West Ham. They've already played a lot of games over Christmas. So when they played Wickham last year, they had Dele Alli and players. Had a really good, decent team in there. But I think it's going to be a real proper second stroke, third string. So I think Neil Hardy will be preparing them to go there and express themselves and not be scared of the opposition that we're going to play.
Would you like to venture a prediction for this Sunday's game?
I don't think we're going to get blown away. I really don't. My gut feeling is it's either going to be a draw, possibly like a 1-1 draw, or we'll lose probably to a late winner because of them bringing someone on the bench. But again, I don't know whether they're going to put people like Harry Kane and Dele Alli and Ericsson on the bench. I just don't know whether they're going to bother. But I pray for a draw, because that is where it'd be a great night. It would be great to welcome Spurs back to Kingsmeadow for a second time this season. A joke.
Not joking about welcoming them, joking that they'll be back for a second time this season. Yeah.
But no, it'd be a great draw, wouldn't it, to get back at our place.
It would be fantastic. What other third-round ties stand out to you? I've got some notes here, actually, before you answer that. 9 League One teams are left in the third round. It is the first time in over 50 years, possibly even over 60 years now, I think, maybe even 65 years, since the third round has not featured a non-league side. There are no non-league teams left. So Yeovil, who are 20th in League Two at the moment, they are the lowest-ranked team left. They entertain a League One team in Bradford. There are 8 other League One teams left. Doncaster versus Rochdale, however, is the only all League One affair. And the pick for me of those teams, Fleetwood, who host Leicester, that is live on BBC on Saturday afternoon. So that's good, because we've not got a game, so that'll be fun. And obviously Shrewsbury, your second team, versus West Ham.
Interesting to say that Bradford versus Yeovil, because if Bradford win and go through, that means that our game away to Bradford in January will be postponed. So that, because it falls on the FA Cup 4th round day. So that's an interesting one, because do we really want to play Bradford midweek? But yeah, that's just a little side plot to that. What have I got? I've got Peterborough away to Villa. I think that's a potential upset. Carlisle home to Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday in all sorts of problems at the moment. Coventry Stoke. Obviously, Mark Hughes is trying to question who else could manage Stoke at the moment. I'm sure I can think of a few ideas. And do you know what? I think a potential upset, and I'm probably thinking you're thinking this way, is Luton's trip to Newcastle.
Do you know Luton are taking something like 7,000 fans up to Newcastle for that one?
Yeah, I don't blame them. They're guaranteed goals, aren't they? You know, Luton are scoring ridiculous amounts of goals, aren't they? But yeah, I think that's... I remember Luton going to Norwich, I remember properly, didn't they? And beat Norwich on their own backyard. In this round, or 4th round, wasn't it? 4th
round. Norwich were a Premier League team at the time, and Luton were a non-league team at the time.
So Luton have got history on it. I'd really fancy... If I was going to put a bet on anything over the weekend, I'd probably put a bet on Luton getting at least a draw at Newcastle and Peterborough winning at Villa.
I have a sneaky suspicion that Coventry Stoke is possibly where it all comes to a horrendous conclusion for Mark Hughes. His future really is in the balance. So, and I'd be quite happy for Coventry if they did. But what it must be said is a number of cracking ties. It's a great third-round draw, and it's going to be very entertaining watching over the weekend. So we hope you all enjoy in the same way that you have enjoyed this podcast this week. But unfortunately, that is the end. We have to say goodbye now, but thank you for listening. Please remember to like us and subscribe to us on either iTunes or YouTube, however you are choosing to listen to us, or even put a comment on our website, 9yrspodcast.org. Updates from the Tottenham game will be available on Twitter at 9yrspodcast, and there will also be Facebook live broadcasts on the day. Aside from that, thank you, Stu, for joining me.
No problem.
Thank you to everyone for listening. And join us next week when we will be talking to former West Ham and Manchester City winger Trevor Sinclair about his anti-racism campaign. Alexa Bliss, back first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.
Rough idea to probably play Llorente out front, who I fancy us to do. The more I think about,
you fancy Llorente?
No, I fancy us to.
I didn't think he was your type.
I fancy us to do a job on him. I really do.
Well,
that sounded wrong, didn't it?